This is Ryan McCoskrie, aka the Permanent Noob. I'm not good at gaming or programming, but I persist at them anyway. So, let's replace The Sims. Why? First of all, players keep paying for the same content with a different engine. Now, if this is what you want to do, that is your choice, but this is a very, very common complaint on the forums that I've been seeing for years. A Sims game comes out, people pay a lot for it because, in part, it is, well, first of all, it's got the monopoly, and secondly, it is made using very different game engines to, say, your garden variety first person shooters. Then come the expansion packs. They all cost each one enough to be a game in its own right. Then comes another Sims game, and then come a whole bunch of essentially identical expansion packs. This is more than I can afford to keep up with, and I think there needs to be some competition in this market. Secondly, patches break mods. While this is true for any patch for any game, I think the problem can be mitigated rather considerably, and you're going to see why a bit later on. Thirdly, your hardware will never be good enough for The Sims 3. This is a scientific fact. The Sims 3 has, in my opinion, one of the best feature sets of all Sims games, but there is something deeply wrong with its graphics engine. The computer that I have at the moment, which I admit is not fantastic by today's standards, is unimaginably more powerful than what was on the market when TS3 came out, and yet it gives a low frame rate and very limited distance because there is something preventing the graphics engine from actually being able to get enough time to do the work it needs. Maybe it's doubling up on a lot of work by not using occlusion of polygons properly. I don't know. This is a problem that should be fixed, but it's not going to be. 4. No Linux support. You might not care about this, but I do. I want to play something like The Sims on Linux because Linux is the operating system I do all my real work on. So, what will it look like? First of all, it will be open source, probably under the MIT license. Essentially, what this means is that the programming is available for free to the general public on the internet. You can make your own changes and add yourself onto the list of copyright holders. All that the end user license says is that the original creators, being the first creator and therefore holding the copyright, can't be sued for copyright infringement by some hypothetical copyright troll. Secondly, at least at first, it will use isometric graphics like The Sims 1. If you go back and look at the original Sims game, while it appears to be 3D, all of the graphics have been rendered ahead of time by Electronic Arts, so that the actual computer playing the game on only has to deal with 2D graphics that look kind of 3D. It's a very efficient way to save programming time, and while I would like to do full 3D, I need to choose what to focus on carefully. Maybe someday there can be a Replace the Sims replacement project that will give us full glorious 3D, but that day is not today. 3. It will be plugin orientated. Again, if you're not familiar with this term, it basically means the same thing as a mod, except that you are meant to use it. So in practice, what this will mean is that when you go to create a new game, you'll be prompted to specify what plugins you want to use. There will, of course, be a default list, in case you don't want to spend a whole lot of time choosing it, just, click defaults, yes, let's go. But even the idea of your characters being human will be in a standard plugin that you can remove if you so like, if you want to replace it with a robots plugin, or of course you could have both, and then you'll be asked what species you want in the creator sim screen. So this is going to be something far, far more customizable than even any of the Sims games with all the mods and all the expansion packs. This is going to be glorious. And 4, because it will be plugin orientated, it is conceivable that there will be other genres of gaming supported within the game. So, for example, I think it would be neat if somebody made an RPG quest mod where you could have one character being a hero for his career or her career, and go off, collect loot with magical swords or whatever. You could have a lot of fun with this. So then, the next question is, what needs to be done? First, choose a minimum feature set. And by features, I mean, what should the engine support? What concepts should not have to be implemented via plugins? So I think furniture, characters, houses, that's all pretty obvious, but how much support should there be for random events, for instance? Do we need to have multiple species in case you want to have cats in the very first version, or should we go for all humans initially? Should it support aging? Please tell me. It gives me a bar to know how much work I have to do before other people can have fun. Secondly, choose libraries. A library is a piece of software that gets integrated into a program that does very basic jobs, like in this case, figure out how to put the pictures onto the screen. Now, the set of libraries I'm most familiar with is the Q Toolkit, or Qt for short, which is actually meant for creating scientific application software on multiple operating systems. So, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, it looks great on all of them, works great on all of them. It isn't really meant for the sort of keyboard and mouse interactions that you see in games, however, and while I think out of what I know how to use, it's the best choice. But if there's something that you can recommend that I use that would be good specifically for this project, not making a first-person shooter or top-down RPG, please tell me. Third, write the core program, of course. This will be a lot of work, but I'm eager to do it. I've kind of started a couple of attempts before, but over the last week I have been sketching out designs, and I'm eager, and because I'm going for an open source model, you can help out if you so want. Fourth, create game art. As you might be able to guess from this very, very minimalist presentation, I am not good at thinking in terms of pictures. The fact is, I can barely make sense of what I'm looking at, let alone try to imagine a picture and then actually create it. So I'll go as far as making some very rough prototype graphics, but I will need the support of some artists, preferably from the Sims modding community, to help me follow through on this. And fifth, document how to create a plugin. And by document, I mean write tutorials on how to create plugins, as well as reference works on what features the engines provide that haven't been covered in the tutorial that are available for use. When a new version of the engine comes out, list how things are changed so that plugin creators know how to keep up to date, what new features they can use. This again is going to be a lot of work, but I think it will be worth doing. So that is the project that I endorse the Sims fan community to get behind. If you have any feedback on this whatsoever, please leave a message in the comment section below